Gavel strikes echoed like gunshots, stripping him of his home, his savings, and worst of all, his 6-year-old daughter. Walking out of family court with nothing but a suitcase and crushing debt, he thought his life was over. He didn't know a ruthless female billionaire was hunting him down, ready to hand him the weapon to destroy his ex-wife and reclaim his empire. The heavy oak doors of courtroom 302 inches, the Cook County Family Division, felt like the gates of hell. Rain lashed against the tall, frosted windows, casting long, weeping shadows across the mahogany benches. Nathaniel Hayes sat frozen at the respondent's table, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the wood. His tie was slightly askew, his eyes hollowed out by months of relentless, soul-crushing litigation. Across the aisle sat Valerie, his wife of 8 years. The woman he had worked 80-hour weeks to support. She wore a tailored charcoal blazer, dabbing at perfectly dry eyes with a tissue, playing the role of the beleaguered victim with Oscar-worthy precision. Beside her sat Bradley, a high-priced divorce attorney known in legal circles as the executioner. Judge Harrison, a stern man with zero tolerance for ambiguity, adjusted his glasses and looked down at the final decree. In the matter of Hayes versus Hayes, the judge's voice boomed, devoid of any warmth. After reviewing the financial affidavits and the custody evaluations, the court finds it in the best interest of the minor child, Lily, to grant sole physical custody to the petitioner, Valerie Hayes. Nate stopped breathing. The words hit him like physical blows to the chest. Sole physical custody. Furthermore, Judge Harrison continued, ignoring the silent devastation radiating from Nate's side of the room. The petitioner is awarded the primary residence in Oak Park. The respondent is ordered to vacate the premises by 5 p.m. today. Respondent will assume all marital debt accrued under his name and is ordered to pay $5,000 a month in alimony and child support, effective immediately. Your Honor, please, Nate rasped, his voice cracking as he stood up, ignoring his public defender's frantic tug on his sleeve. I don't care about the house. I don't care about the money. But Lily is my life. You can't take my daughter away from me. I'm a good father. I've never done anything to... Mr. Hayes, sit down, Judge Harrison snapped, striking his gavel. Your financial instability and recent job loss were heavily factored into this decision. A child needs stability. You currently have none. You are granted alternating weekends, supervised at the mother's discretion, a cheru until you can prove adequate living conditions. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell one last time. It was the sound of a life shattering into 1,000,000 unrecoverable pieces. Nate didn't remember walking out of the courtroom. The hallway was a blur of fluorescent lights and echoing footsteps. He only snapped back to reality when he heard the sharp, rhythmic clicking of Valerie's designer heels approaching him. She stood before him, the faux tears entirely gone. In their place was a cold, triumphant smirk. Standing just behind her was Cameron, a slick hedge fund manager in a bespoke Italian suit who had been Valerie's close friend for the past 2 years. Nate now knew exactly what kind of friend he was. Don't make this harder than it has to be, Nate, Valerie said, her voice dripping with condescension. Just have your trash out of the garage by 5. Cameron is moving some of his things in tonight, and we need the space. Nate stared at the man who was moving into his house, sleeping in his bed, and effectively becoming a father to his little girl. The rage boiled in his throat, but the crushing weight of the law kept his hands firmly at his sides. You planned this, Nate said, his voice barely a whisper. You drained the joint accounts. You orchestrated my firing by calling my boss with those lies. You destroyed me just so you could take her. Valerie laughed, a short, breathy sound. Oh, grow up, Nate. The world doesn't run on good intentions. It runs on capital and power. 2 things you never had and never will have. You spent years tinkering on your stupid computer in the basement writing useless code while I wanted a life. Well, I have it now. She turned on her heel and walked away, Cameron trailing behind her with a smug, backward glance. That evening, Nate packed his entire existence into 2 cardboard boxes and a duffel bag. He stood in the doorway of Lily's room, staring at the pink walls and the stuffed elephant he had won for her at the county fair. His heart fractured as he placed a small, handwritten note on her pillow, promising he would see her soon. By midnight, Nate was sitting on the edge of a stained mattress in a dingy, $20 a night motel on the outskirts of the city. The neon sign outside buzzed relentlessly, casting a sickly red glow through the cheap blinds. He looked at his bank account on his cracked phone screen. $412. He was 34 years old. He had lost his wife, his home, his reputation, and his child. He was entirely, fundamentally broken. 6 months later, the descent into poverty was a rapid, unforgiving slide. To meet Judge Harrison's draconian alimony demands and keep his meager weekend visitation rights, Nate had to take 3 grueling jobs. He worked the graveyard shift, resetting servers for a massive data farm, spent his mornings fixing laptops at a rundown repair shop, and drove for a rideshare app in the evenings. He slept 3 hours a night in a studio apartment barely larger than a closet. His only light in the suffocating darkness was Lily. It was a brisk Saturday afternoon at Centennial Park. Nate sat on a cold park bench, wrapping his worn jacket tighter around himself as he watched Lily play on the swings. She was wearing a brand new, expensive boutique coat, undoubtedly bought by Cameron. Valerie had dropped her off 20 minutes late and had made a point of reminding Nate that she would be back in exactly 2 hours. Lily ran over to him, her cheeks flushed with the autumn chill. She climbed onto his lap and Nate held her tight, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. For a moment, the debt, the exhaustion, and the humiliation vanished. "Daddy," Lily said softly, tracing the frayed edge of his collar, "why don't you live with us anymore? Cameron yells a lot when his football team loses. I want you to come home." Nate swallowed the massive lump in his throat, forcing a brave smile. "I'm working on a special project, sweetie. Daddy just needs a little more time to get things perfect. Then I'll have a huge house with a whole room just for your toys, I promise." It was a lie. A desperate, pathetic lie of a drowning man. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles away, in a glass and steel skyscraper in downtown Seattle, a very different kind of crisis was unfolding. Victoria Kensington stood at the head of a massive mahogany boardroom table, her piercing blue eyes radiating an icy fury. At 32, she was the CEO and sole proprietor of Kensington Matrix, a multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity empire that protected the assets of Wall Street's biggest banks, sovereign wealth funds, and international intelligence agencies. She was brilliant, ruthless, and entirely uncompromising. And right now, her company was bleeding. "Explain to me," Victoria said, her voice dangerously quiet, "how a Russian cyber syndicate just bypassed a billion-dollar firewall in less than 4 minutes?" Her chief technology officer, a man making 7 figures a year, wiped sweat from his pale forehead. "Miss Kensington, it's a zero-day exploit. We've never seen anything like it. It's a cascading algorithm that rewrites our defense protocols in real time. If we don't patch the central node in the next 48 hours, they will access the financial records of over 40 million banking clients. It's total systemic collapse." "Have you written a patch?" Victoria demanded, slamming her palms on the table. "We can't," the CTO stammered. "The architecture of our core system. It's based on a legacy protocol we acquired 3 years ago. We bought the patent from a third-party holding company. The code is structurally brilliant, but it's incomplete. We don't have the root kernel. Whoever wrote the original architecture is the only person on Earth who understands the foundational mathematics enough to close this back door." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Who wrote it?" "We don't know," the CTO admitted. "The holding company we bought it from claimed it was in-house development, but our forensics team analyzed the code strings. It was written years ago by an anonymous user in an open-source forum under the handle nhayesroot. The holding company basically stole it, polished it, and sold it to us. We've been trying to find nhayesroot for 2 years to recruit him, but he's a ghost." Victoria turned to her executive assistant Simon, a man whose sole job was making the impossible happen. "Simon," Victoria said, her tone absolute, "I need this phantom. Deploy the private investigators, leverage the NSA contacts, run the handle through every dark web server and public tax record in the country. Find N. Hayes." "And if he doesn't want to be found, ma'am?" Simon asked. "I don't care if you have to drag him out of a monastery," Victoria replied coldly. "Bring him to me. The fate of the global economy is sitting in his head." It took Victoria's limitless resources exactly 48 hours to track the digital breadcrumbs. They didn't lead to a high-tech fortress or a Silicon Valley mansion. They led to a dingy laptop repair shop in the rain-soaked suburbs of Chicago.